Beautiful sustainability, the development and impacts of an area-based partnership. Ellesmere Port could be described as a town at the edge. It is on the edge of the Wirral Peninsula, the edge of Cheshire West, and the edge of the Manchester Ship Canal. The town has a population of around 65,000, with some wards in the lower super output areas in the country. However, this is not the whole story. Ellesmere Port is also home to the National Waterways Museum, Theatre Porto, one of Arts Council England's national portfolio organisations, whose work is focused on theatre by, for and with children and young people, and St Bernard's Roman Catholic Primary School, one of only 8 creativity collaborative lead schools in the country. Curious Minds, in its former role as bridge organisation, has had a significant impact on this area over an 11-year period, delivering a range of programmes which are now in the DNA of schools, cultural organisations and individuals. This type of longer-term sustainability is comparatively rare in a sector that is short-term funded. We have identified themes that have emerged from the interviews, and here are the key protagonists to tell their story in their own words. Firstly, the development of the Ellesmere Port Cultural Learning Exchange.
The formation of the Ellesmere Port Cultural Learning Exchange has been really powerful, especially for schools across Ellesmere Port. Working with 3-4 organisations collectively, we've been able to build a really strong, powerful network that will support our local schools in putting arts and culture at the heart of their curriculum and the work that they do. I think having that experience from Theatre Porto, from Curious Minds, from the council as well, and from Sea Change collectively has enabled us to bring schools together and really evaluate what is the purpose of education, how do they want their young children to have experiences of arts and culture, and it's really helped put that at the heart of their work.
There was this really beautiful moment in time about 2 years ago, wasn't there? Where, because the partnership was already formed, 3 things happened simultaneously that had we not already been in a long-term relationship, we wouldn't have been able to act on so fast. So Curious Minds had some resource and was interested in hyperlocal partnerships at the same time as our local authority was interested in COVID recovery and some resource became available, at the same time as the creativity collaboratives emerged and one of the Ellesmere Port schools was heavily involved. Those 3 things happened together. Now, had that relationship not already existed, we wouldn't have been able to move so fleet of foot. We wouldn't have been able to say, actually, we can align all these things and create something brilliant. We'd have still been at that kind of, okay, let's build the partnership.
I think one of the real strengths of the Ellesmere Port Cultural Learning Exchange is that not only have we really built the schools network there, but the cultural organisations within Ellesmere Port that we've brought into that. There's a real strength there, and I think it's really allowed us to link up with those other cultural organisations in a way that we hadn't been able to before. And it's brought us together to look at what can we offer collectively in Ellesmere Port to all those schools, but also to look at wider things such as work experience and how we tackle some of those bigger, longer term projects that maybe we couldn't quite touch before. And I think the strength of the Ellesmere Port Cultural Learning Exchange has allowed us to go, right, what should we tackle together and how can we make a really big difference together?
Relationships and partnership building are at the core of this work. Strong bonds and working relationships have been forged between schools, cultural organisations and artists.
I think the work has impacted and influenced in a number of ways. There were pivotal moments of my recognising the opportunities in education alongside cultural organisations. That's been through meeting different and working with cultural organisations in a really authentic way. And it has influenced my whole view on partnership, in actual fact. So thinking about the relationship, the deep relationship, in actual fact.
I suppose it's like any partnership, it gets better over time because you get to know each other. You develop an understanding around values, around what the priorities are, and it allows you to build trust. And I think without that, we wouldn't have been able to have created the co-productions that we did or develop some groundbreaking initiatives with our work with teachers. So I think often we are driven by productivity and we're looking for outcomes and outputs over quite a short time frame. We have to evidence the impact, and I don't think we often give ourselves enough time to develop ideas, but primarily relationship, which as I say is about getting to really understand one another. And I think what that's enabled us to do is to have a very equal partnership.
We can do one-off projects, and that's lovely and that's great, but actually the real magic comes when you build a deep relationship and understanding of another organisation's mission, vision and values, because you start to connect then. It's not a tick box, it's an authentic relationship, it's an authentic journey. So it's influenced my whole view on partnership and really shaped my, I suppose, aspirations for developing a learning ecosystem beyond the walls of our schools with our cultural education partners and with the community at large. It also goes beyond the individual person, but there are so many others around in the organisation that now have relationships with those cultural organisations, and that's really important because one of the challenges in education is people move on, and once they move on, things fall apart.
And I think what I've really noticed about it is that Emily and I have a wonderful working relationship, and that has built over that time. But as a result of that has spread into both our organisations. So through all those different projects, all the different members of staff at St Bernard's, all the different members of staff at Theatre Porto have become part of that relationship and become part of that wider partnership.
I think with relationship comes trust, and trust comes from an understanding of each other's aims, vision, values. So, for example, an authentic relationship comes from a belief in what you're about.
The duration of this work has been a vital component of its success. Each initiative has been built on and developed and gone deeper and wider in the participating organisations because they have taken place over an 11-year period.
I think it's really, really important. Having that long time run-in gives people time to get to know each other, to understand the different organisations. If you just come in and say, we're going to be here for 6 months, you don't have time to develop those relationships that are really, really important to deliver partnership. So having a much longer programme, I think, allows you to spend a lot more time finding out about your potential partners and to really be able to embed some interesting learning and to embed some activities that aren't just going to be, we'll come in, we'll deliver and then we'll go, because that doesn't have a lasting effect. There's no longevity to any of that work.
But it has been at 10 years, at least more, hasn't it?
It's
11 years, yeah. And so it's really interesting to see what we've been able to do, particularly for certain communities, because of that duration. And it makes me think we should be bolder and braver to lay that out as an ambition when we start working with the community. Like, how can we make sure this is a 10-year minimum commitment to this community?
Artsmark is a flagship arts and cultural programme for schools. 21 out of 28 schools in Ellesmere Port either have the status or are on the journey to obtaining it. This commitment means a great many children and young people in Ellesmere Port will have artistically and culturally rich educations.
And Artsmark represents to me schools making a commitment to improving their arts and cultural offer and their way of working. And I think we've reached a point where we're about to claim Artsmark town status, which means that 50% or more of the schools in this town have made that commitment. But I hope the impact really will be on the town, and I think it should have a long-term impact. We should be seeing the benefits of that in years to come, because a higher proportion of children in Ellesmere Port will have gone to schools that had a commitment and a development plan around art and culture.
Hello, my name's Darren. I just wanted to join you to say a really big thank you for all the work you're doing with Artsmark. So many schools across Ellesmere Port are committed to really changing the arts and cultural and creativity of their young people, and you're making a huge, huge difference. Artsmark is a really important part of that, and your commitment to Artsmark is something that I'm very grateful for and will really change those young people's lives. We know it's important on a local level in your school, but as you all come together, you can see how it's really important across a town and then a region and then the whole country. I'm really excited to see how you're such a dedicated network, and I just want to finish by saying thank you. Teachers make such a difference, so thank you for everything you do.
Raising the aspirations of young people in the area to look beyond the obvious for future work opportunities has been another focus of the work. Schools play a key role in identifying career opportunities, and the work experience programmes are focusing on a long-term approach to raising young people's game and exploring opportunities for different kinds of work in the arts and cultural sector.
I think the really important thing is historically having conversations with young people in Ellesmere Port. A lot of the aspiration was to work at Cheshire Oaks. You know, it went that far to the end of the line, which was Cheshire Oaks. And I think this whole thing about raising aspirations, we know that the majority of children and young people are in schools, in formal education, and what important places they are.
And that's really, really important. What you said before about this work experience trial, I think would be a really good way of actually broadening children's horizons and actually giving them the experience that frankly they're not going to get, because those kind of doors are only open in big cities, aren't they? Unless you're very well connected, you're just not going to get that chance. So and there's loads of foundations out there who are very keen on social mobility, who I'm sure would be quite interested in supporting a model like that if we can put something together.
All the ingredients of this area-based partnership have added up to change and transformation for the individuals, organisations and schools involved in this work. In so doing, they have been inspired and thus inspire others to take their next steps.
I know it's a very big word to use, but I would like to say the work has been transformational for my school and for myself personally. It has really kind of made me evaluate the purpose of education, how we provide experiences for young people, and the SLICE programme was a real catalyst for that. It allowed me to develop and build my school's curriculum even further, and it has also led to even bigger work nationally in terms of the creativity collaborative work.
I think this work has been transformational in the work we've done as an individual school, but transformational in the way that we now view how we can work as a multi-academy trust across the system. And I hope moving forward that this work goes to build something not only locally, but it's a model for some national work, how that hyperlocal working can really empower school leaders, empower those in the community, cultural organisations to work in a different way for the needs that quite frankly our society has at the front right now of its work.